The Pistons are the basketball champions of the world.
Detroit, it's time. It's playoff time, Detroit. Let's go to work.
Shout out Detroit. I got to buff up, you know what I'm saying? Detroit, I'm all the way in. Detroit Pistons, I'm all the way in. Let's do it.
What up, Dope Pistons fans, and welcome to another episode of the Buff Zone Podcast. We are the best POD in the 313. We got actual Pistons basketball to talk about today. Cade Cunningham returned to the court for the first time in 333 days. Jaden Ivey came off the bench, and Killian Hayes and Marvin Bagley are making waves. We're not going to delay too much into this. First, we got a few things we want to touch on today, but the first thing I want to talk about is Ausar has been as advertised. I think Summer League was kind of like his putting himself on the map, and then it was, oh, okay, he can do that in Summer League against Summer League competition. But his first quote-unquote NBA game, right off the tip, he's matched up with Devin Booker. And I think he did a pretty good job of holding his own. Gabe, you're first on my screen today. Talk to us about how you felt Ausar Thompson handled himself in his first two preseason games.
Well, yeah, exactly as you said. He's been as advertised. Defensively a stud, offensively low field goal percentage, but making all the right plays. And especially against Booker, we were at that game, Valley, and we weren't next to each other, but the first few times I just, Devin Booker does his move and then it's a mid-range jump shot, and Ausar didn't really understand that. So Booker hit a few early and then he got in his face a little bit. Booker still hit a really tough one, but then he blocked him on one and kind of just like took the ball from him. That's exactly what we want from him. Just put him on the best player and make that player have to work to score. His three looks decent when he has time and he's set. He missed a few easy ones as well, but they looked good. And then, of course, he hit that one, which I didn't see. I left it at that point to force OT from the corner. But yeah, he's been as advertised, and there's some people calling for him to start already, which is I'm not quite there yet, but
yeah,
he's a stud defensively.
What I like when we say as advertised, we're talking about him as an off-ball mover. This guy is an off-ball mover. He is a cutter from the weak side around curls. He is constantly trying to get to some open space around the basket, and that it ends up in buckets or dump offs or offensive rebounds off his own stuff and other people's stuff. Two that stood out to me. One was a baseline cut off, which we all like, the oop from Marcus Sasser, where he
hung in the air,
boings up and just kind of guides it in for the jam. It was sick. And the
as
other
Kelser said, he just waited on the ball in midair.
Yeah, not a lot of guys can do that. The other one was a curl around Killian, where Killian then dropped it down to him. But he is just like constantly moving, and like that's so valuable, I think, for an offense, even if he's not a shooter or a spacer in that way. Which I feel like the jump shot, like it looked all right. It looked very mechanical. I don't know if y'all agree. It's definitely not smooth yet. It's very much like sort of two motion top sort of thing.
Well, if you can't shoot, at least having a good form that's repeatable, even if it is mechanical, it's a good place to start.
For sure. But he also just he's always looking for that space, looking for the cut. I think that's really valuable for creating motion, creating space, creating some advantage, even if he's not a shooter. So yeah, I'm loving some Ausar.
Valley, what do you think he looked like in person?
Dude, outrageous. And in person, you see that, dude, the guy walked right by me, and I was so shell-shocked that I didn't even process it until like 10 seconds later. Biggest fumble of the year.
How tall did he look in person?
Huh?
How tall did he look in person? Did you get like
way tall. The thing is, he was next to Marcus Sasser and some other guy. So at first I thought it was just two like random fellas, and then I see this 6'7" guy noticeably stands out. I don't know. But the thing that stood out to me that you guys haven't touched on, because you talk about the defense, how about the rebounding, man? 18 rebounds across 2 games. He pulled down 10 in the first one, 8 in the second one. and he really got some tough rebounds, I thought, with that athleticism. But when you're doing stuff like that, all those small pieces, rebounding, moving off the ball a ton, this guy played 39 minutes in a preseason opener. Like, if that doesn't mean something, like where in terms of where Monty Williams stands on him, then I don't know what does. 39 minutes against Phoenix, and then he had 31 against Oklahoma City. That's a lot of basketball for preseason. I don't have the stat in front of me, but I'm willing to bet that's the most preseason minutes out of anybody. And it really makes me think or know that Ausar Thompson's starting the regular season. You guys said you're not quite there yet. I don't know
Bogey
who's
is
gonna miss out.
starting.
I don't know who's gonna miss out, but Asar is going to start, I think. 39 minutes in a preseason opener, hitting those big shots, playing really confident as well. That's one other thing. Gabe, that 3-pointer. No, sorry, that was the other game. I don't know if you guys watched the second half of the game against Oklahoma City. The three he hit, or was it in the first half? He went between the legs to a step back to knock down a three.
A solid base.
Yeah, solid base, incredibly confident. But my takeaway was this guy's going to start in a regular season, and I don't know who's going to pay the price.
Yeah, I mean, he was really good, I think, in both games. Matched up against, like I said, Devin Booker, stuffed him on that one drive, led to a fast break. He doesn't shy away from confidence, as just mentioned. Gabe, you talked about that corner three that you missed, you fair fan, from the corner to send us into overtime. And then there was something else that really stood out to me as well. Kelser said it, I think, within like the first quarter of the first preseason game, with Duran, Stu, and Ausar out there, like you mentioned, Valley, that rebounding is going to be pretty instrumental. I think he is going to start. I don't know. I mean, the fact that Cade missed the second game and Killian started instead of Ivy really meant to me that Monty wants Ivy to get used to that role of coming off the bench. So I think it is going to be Cade, Ausar, Bogey, Stu, Duran on October 25th.
That would be fun. That's big.
I mentioned it to you, Amit.
I don't know about that lineup.
It's so feasible, but what if we remove Isaiah Stewart outside the lineup and Ausar plays in with him? So you go Cade, you go Ivy, and then you go Bogey, Ausar with Duran.
To me, Stewart's been the best player in the preseason. I know he missed some threes early, but like defensively, he looks better than Ausar. Even I think he's smarter. I think he stays down. He had a few cheap foul calls. I thought that weren't actually fouls, but man, he looks good. His three-pointer looks pretty good. It just didn't drop the first game. It's that Duran ankle tweak. Hopefully, it's not serious.
Yeah, I read that he's back at practice today. They shot Cade out today good. Just as like another day of rest, but Duran is back and Cade should be back tomorrow.
I just don't think there's room right now for Ausar in the starting lineup.
Yeah,
he's not good enough as a shooter.
I don't know if there's room.
I don't want to bench Stu.
I'd really rather have a shooter at that position. Like I know I said Ausar can do stuff when he's not a shooter, but like if we want to do best by Cade, which we all said that Cade is the guy. If this team's gonna be good, it's gonna be Cade. Like Duran non-shooter, Ausar pretty much non-shooter at this point. Isaiah Stewart at least a shooter that other teams don't really respect in a real way. So you're not really
been wide open.
The spacing.
I mean, I don't disagree with you at all, but it's just the signs that I've seen from Monty Williams just makes me think he's going to start, and I'm just trying to find a way to see the way it's going to work.
I'm thinking Stu off the bench as well, but keeping Ivy back there too, and having an Ivy Stu back line where you go Cade, Burks, Ausar, Bogey, Duran.
Sure.
That sounds a little better, yeah.
And I think I wanted to touch on this before we go any farther. Ausar Thompson picked up 5 fouls with like 10 minutes to go in the third quarter in the second preseason game, and he didn't foul out until like the last 2 minutes of the game, which I thought was extremely impressive. He didn't back away on any defensive possession either. So I just wanted to make sure that we touched on that too.
Well, I didn't watch that game. Was he primary on Shea?
Part of it.
Yeah, not the whole time.
But not the whole time.
I saw him like brick wall him once.
Yeah, he had some nice stands against him when he did go.
He did, yeah. Second half he was more on him. First half it was more Killian.
On Ausar, The all-time offensive rebounds per game leader for rookies is Josh Childress with 2.4. Ausar Thompson, through these first 2 games of the preseason, has 5 offensive rebounds in 2 games. Do we see a chance that Ausar Thompson? Do we call, first of all, he might not be a guard. I was thinking of him as a guard. Does he set the guard offensive rebound rookie record this season?
One more
I don't
time.
think he'll be a guard. No, but I don't think.
Now that I'm
Yeah.
talking it out.
Yeah.
One thing you guys mentioned is rebounding. His defensive rebounding, immediately his head snaps up and he's off with the ball. He doesn't look like pass to Ivy or Cade. He takes it himself and goes. And I heard Monty like yell a few times. He just yells attack, attack, and then like keep moving, keep moving. So that speed that we're talking about in the preseason, that 13-second offense exploding off rebounds. We have a perfect team for that. And Ausar, like I just see his eyes snap and he just goes, and it's another way to score, be effective when you're not in the offense, really.
Right. And I guess we'll move on to our next topic here, which we kind of already started touching on. Ivy coming off the bench. Like I said, Cade doesn't play. Ivy still comes off the bench. That to me means that Monty wants him to be more accustomed to that role. And I think we talked about it, I think, on the pod before the preseason opener. A lot of us said if we had to kick someone out of the starting lineup for Ausar Thompson, it was Jaden Ivey. So I guess let's go a little more in depth on it. We'll start with Valley this time. Like, what are you thinking about Ivy off the bench? Do you think it's good? Do you think it's bad? You're indifferent?
Well, I'd say I'm still indifferent on it because I want to see what the final plan is. Because I don't think you can say for sure that's his role, the sixth man role. When you look at Killian starting instead of Ivy, it makes a little bit of sense to me. More so the prototype of player that Killian Hayes is. He's going to take a lot more shots off the dribble in the mid range. He's going to come off of that screen a ton. Keep a guy in his hip a ton. In a way, he plays similarly to Cade. I think that's just more of a seamless fit. And he didn't want to disrupt that. So I'm gonna hold out to make a judgment on it. But if it does happen, like we've hinted at it, people have hinted at it his rookie year, he would be an outrageous sixth man, and we've seen that. He just comes in and he runs. The guy's as fast as ever. He might be the fastest guy in the league. But I want to talk about his jumper. We can cycle back to the starting and stuff, but his jumper looks really good to me. He struggled with it against Oklahoma City, but he's letting that thing fly. The form is so fast, and I told Amit this, like, not the results, but it looks a little Steph Curry-esque, the way he's like shooting off the dribble, like the release, the form, just like the mechanics. It just gave me a few like reminiscence of it. But I'm really pleased with his jumper. I think it's going to come a long ways this season. We saw every 3 hit against Phoenix off the dribble or while he was moving. No catch and shoot, no stand-up threes. I'm really optimistic about his 3-point shot. And those first 2 preseason games confirmed it for me.
I want to say you gotta have at least 2 seasons shooting over 40% from deep before you can say Steph Curry-esque about anybody. Like that's
form, dude. You need like 8 seasons in a row of that. You can go
gotta be
Curry.
reserved just for S. But
Yeah, where you see Curry, I see Jordan Poole, LaMelo Ball,
Okay,
early threes
and then
that are
Jordan Poole, you see a
unnecessary.
touch of Steph Curry, man. He learned from him.
He
You can't
does
tell me
look,
that's not true.
he does look more controlled. I think he looks more like in control of what his body's doing, and he can. If he's playing second unit, he's just gonna absolutely roast some point guards. He roasted Cason Wallace just by running
Cason
past
Wallace.
him in a straight line because he's so fast. Like
What team is Cason Wallace on? Who's he?
Who?
Which team was Cason Wallace
KC.
on?
He's on the
OKC.
OKC.
Cason Wallace.
OKC.
Sorry, Cason Wallace.
And he turned some.
It's okay. George and Greg were calling him Carson Wallace for like half the game, so that's fine.
He turned some defense into offense where he took a one dribble and controlled it with the one hand and into a dunk, which is just something. He got big. Does he have big hands?
Yeah.
But he looks faster to me than he did last season, and I hope he continues to use his vertical athleticism as much as his horizontal. because as far as like crazy athletic as he is, felt a lot of times he would finish under the rim very intentionally, like not really drive up on his layups and such, and make them a little softer, a little lower. It looks like he's really like attacking the hoop when he takes his lays and really taking advantage of his uh, freaky physical tools.
And
Don't
he
you?
came into the game in that OKC game in his first stance. He like stripped Josh Giddey and took back to the other end for a dunk. So he's definitely trying on the defensive end too.
That's the only thing that I think is like I don't know. Like I think the reason Monty's keeping him out is for perimeter shooting, but defense. Like Monty's spoken defense so much. Yet our defense still looks terrible, doesn't it? But I think that's one of the key reasons Ivy's not starting. But he's showing that he's putting in the effort. I mean, you are definitely right. It's very noticeable.
I think another thing is that just his preseason. I think that's why Ausar's playing so much and why Killian started. In reality, he probably won't be. You gotta try some things in preseason. I don't. His three nicer. It looks more fluid and it looks quicker, but I think him like chucking up threes is a bit of a cop out for defenders. Um, like his drive this year, he's more in control. He missed a lot of layups last year. Some were just wide open that he just missed. Like Connie said, just get a little bit higher. Dunk goes in. You could, like he's athletic enough. Um, I wanted to say when he does come off the bench, I don't mind that. Like Drew Holiday's coming off the bench for Boston now. He'll close this probably. I do, but like if he's not playing, I want him to start. But I would like for like 5 minutes of just extreme spacing to start the game. Just to kind of make teams play a certain way, and then you can get Ivy in there and they're playing out, and then he just goes right by him. So I do I like that look. I don't think it has to be one way or another. Some days he can start, some days he can't. That's kind of the depth we have this year, which I'll get into more later with the big men we have. But it's just watching him play. He's still every time he takes a three, I just think you could have just driven that because I really don't see anybody in the league like what I said that can keep up with him athletically.
But I think he needs to take those shots because he's still a young guy, and if he can,
It's in preseason, yeah.
and like, but I think regularly he should have the confidence to take those shots because I think it's pretty essential that the other team is at least sort of worried about that shot.
Yeah, but it's like I don't know, like you know when
Rest
we
of
play
the game.
pick up with Hattie and like you pass him the ball and he just shoots, and it's like you could have taken a shot with like 3 left on the shot clock, like that'll always be there. I want to see him try to do something else.
Yeah, relatable content right there. Hattie basketball takes.
Any other thoughts on Ivy before we move into beef stew?
Just real quick, does he start opening night? Yes or no? Amit,
No.
Gabe,
No, I think Monte is gonna start.
Monte,
Yeah.
Connie.
So Monty, I think Monty's gonna start.
Wow, calling himself in.
Yeah, no, I think it's gonna be. I think it's gonna be Ivy.
Okay, I'm gonna go Burks.
Yeah, I mean, Monty has been preaching that it's important to have bets out there. So it's probably going to be one of Monte or Alec Burks or in a real turn of events, Joe Harris. But we'll touch on Joe Harris in rotation minutes later. But let's move into beef stew. We've talked about on this pod before how we feel like he needs to improve his touch around the rim. First game shooting from three, he wasn't that great. Second game, he was a lot better. But like I just mentioned, inside of the arc, he was a lot better against OKC. He made some strong moves to the basket, putting his shoulder into Chet, just kind of gaining confidence with using his body and his touch around the rim. He even had a couple hooks. They ran a post up for him to start game 2 of preseason too. We'll start with Connie this time. How are you feeling about beef stew around the rim?
Well, Monty Williams before the season was talking about how when Stu's got a more athletic, smaller four on him, they're going to try to attack that mismatch. And I thought Stu did a really good job of that. getting seals and just making a simple move over a guy. I think that starting the game with the post up is a little bit of that like Ben Wallace, Kendrick Perkins type thing where it's like you give the motor guy a nice take at the beginning of the game so that his motor is high for the rest of the game. You know, you can't just expect the guy to offensive rebound and battle guys all game because that's not very fun. So you give him the shot to make him feel good. But they kept going to it. He was 4 for 4 against Phoenix inside the arc. I think it looks a lot better. It looks less rushed. It looks less like a sort of just like get this out of my hand. It looks a lot smoother, like it's coming off the fingertips. Really enjoy some Stu. I think if he keeps the move simple, I don't think I want to see a lot of dribbling down, trying to back a dude into the paint, but just like with Chet, it was like grab the ball, instantly shoulder directly to the chest, moves him, step through, easy leg.
With the left,
With
too,
the left,
after that move.
So if he keeps it simple, I think those touch shots can get going.
Yeah, I have nothing more to add, I guess. Like I said, his defense looks great. He still looks like our best defender at the rim and on switching. He just looks more mature. And then also notice when Bagley was on the court, Stewart was still kind of like the power forward in that situation. He was still spacing the floor. So it seems like he's not going to be the backup five really at any point. That's kind of relegated to the other two bigs. So that must mean he's hitting those threes behind the scenes. I mean, yeah, not much else to say. I don't think he's done anything bad, really.
Speaking of threes behind the scenes, he hit that three behind the screen
Except miss all those
against
threes in game one.
OKC. Yeah, it was nice to see. It was nice. It was off a DHO. He just guy went under. He pound dribbled and just fired away and he buried it. So it was nice to see Stu get going a little bit in that second game. I think he was 2 for 4 from behind the long line in that game. I think he was 1 for like 6 or something in the first game. But you know, it's nice to see. Like, I don't think he's going to be shooting 6 threes a game. So if he can bury 2 for 4 on most nights, I think he's going to be in pretty good shape.
I feel like shooting 6 threes a game is very realistic.
Especially if teams disrespect him and just leave him open.
If he's disrespected, yeah.
I mean, if he's the starting 4, he's gonna oftentimes probably be like the valve on a lot of plays where it's like the ball is just gonna find his way there if things collapse, and we have a lot of collapsers. I don't feel like if he's the shooter that we think he is, 6 threes a game as a starting 4, I feel like perfectly
You're right.
reasonable.
That's fair. I guess I'm just trying to say, like, I don't think he should be hunting them, but if they find him, he should take it. You know?
Yeah, I think 6 threes might find him.
You're right. That's possible. Off kickouts and stuff, if Cade and Ivy can create as much attention as we think they're going to. You're right. That's possible.
I'll take a bet with you on it. Stu takes over 6 threes opening night.
Ooh.
Against Chicago?
No,
or in Miami.
In Miami.
Who's
In
their power
Miami.
forward?
Kevin Love. They've been starting. He plays like 10 minutes.
He's gonna disrespect Stu's 3.
I think everybody's gonna disrespect, and Stu is gonna launch.
If he hits his first one, he'll shoot 6. But I'll say yes, just to like keep the bet simple. But yeah, if he's missing them, he's gonna stop taking them. I mean, I think even in that first game, Cade had to tell Stu keep shooting, and Stu knocked it down. So like, it's nice that Cade is still, you know, giving them that confidence within the flow of the game to just keep shooting. Any other thoughts on Stu before we move into the backup big man battle?
Got nothing.
Marvin Bagley went absolutely crazy in the first game of the preseason against the Suns, dropping, 25 points, 7 boards, and it was pretty much all in the second half, if not all in the second. I don't think he came in until the second half. And then James Wiseman looked pretty bad in the first game. It was not looking good. And then he comes back in game 2 and goes 8 for 8, including a 3 from the right wing. I started with Valley and then Connie. So Gabe, back to you. Talk to us about what you've seen from Wiseman and Bagley.
Yeah, for me, these two games couldn't have been more opposite. First game, like the whole crowd, everybody around me, every time Wiseman would like go up soft or like lose the ball or just pump fake under the rim and then not do anything with it, everybody was complaining, me included. And then when Bagley came in and just started dunking things and big many people, he just looked so athletic. The pick and roll with Cade, immediately there's an alley-oop, and then immediately he was running and finishing above the rim, and he even hit a three, which looks much cleaner than last year. That's I think is going to be a huge thing. If Mark can hit two threes a game, one three a game, that would be amazing.
Oh, we lost Gabe. Connie, you
Gabe.
want to pick up? You want
Yeah.
to pick up where you left off?
I know Wiseman had a nice game in the second game, and I want to give him some ups before I start shitting on him. He made some okay passes. I thought he was much more willing as a guy not to just be a black hole on offense. But between the two of these guys, the guy that I trust more to play the role of a backup center and play the way that the Pistons I think want to play, I trust Marvin Bagley to do that. To get up and down the court, to be all right with setting screens and rolling to the hoop, to get out of the way when it's time to get out of the way. I don't like it was a good game by Wiseman. He made his shots, but like it wasn't like an I guess overly different Wiseman game to me. It was just a good one. Like and those are
He was
gonna
still
happen
post.
because he's a very talented player, but like it's still not the way that I think the Pistons want to play basketball. And I think Bagley fits more into that. And like he's gonna just even when his second game wasn't that crazy, it wasn't bad either. You're still 4 for 5. And he just sets screens and he rolls. And like that's perfect. That's what you want from that spot. And he looks athletic. He looks good off the injuries. We'll see how long he stays healthy, but he looks good right now.
Yeah, I mean, he's made it, I think, farther than he did last season. I think he got hurt in like the first preseason game. Gabe, did you want to finish up what you were talking about?
I didn't have much else to say, really. I thought he looked a lot more dangerous game one because Cade was out there with him. We talked about that last season. He averaged 20 and 10 in those few games. Um, he looks good. I gotta say, I was a hater, but he didn't post up once. He hit that one turn on fade the first game, which was nice. But
Oh,
yeah, Wiseman was annoying me with a few too many post ups. But he scored, so you can't really complain. It's not within the flow of the offense, like Connie was saying.
And I think one thing to note about like the Stu post ups and the Wiseman post up is that they're not dribbling. Like if they are dribbling at the pound dribbling, and like you said, counting the step through, um, it's quick. Like Wiseman, the two post ups he got, both right handed, if I recall correctly, got it and just flipped it right up right away. It was just quick, like using his length to his advantage. And like I think we talked about it on the pod before, like Wiseman is so long, just like Space Jam's Michael Jordan dropped the ball in the basket, man. And I think that's what he did the first two possessions. It was nice to see him like get a flow going, step back to the elbow, nail a left elbow jumper, and then he went to the right wing to nail a three. And then he was pretty active on the offensive glass, a couple clutch putbacks, in tandem with Ausar Thompson. So he played well, but then again, it was against like some third stringers against OKC. So I guess the only two things I can take away from that are the block he had on the nice like fake pass by Mitic, where he looked away through a bounce pass, and then Wiseman was able to recover and block. And then the step back, not step back, but like he was on his way moving back to the right wing, nailed the three, and then the funky looking left elbow jumper, which went through. Valley, your thoughts on
wait,
Wiseman or
um,
Bagley?
who's your
Yeah,
who are you like? Who do you think's winning the race right now for backup big man?
definitely Bagley. Because I read something that said Monty praises Marvin Bagley's defensive communication. Um, and if you know the offensive consistency that Bagley has showed the first two games, and then on top of that, at least communicating defensively, I think is a lot better than what Wiseman has shown so far. But there's still um, over a week of training camp and 2 preseason games to go. But like to answer your question, Marvin Bagley is a little bit ahead of James Wiseman at this point in time for me. Valley?
Yeah, I mean, you guys touch on pretty much everything, and I'm a very notable Marvin Bagley hater and James Wiseman hater. But the hate's eased up on Bagley. I'm not gonna lie. I was really upset watching that game against Phoenix. Wiseman made one field goal that game, missed several free throws. Just seemed like, yeah, like get off the court, man. And that's exactly what happened once Stern picked up that injury. And it was just night and day. Once Marvin Bagley checked in. Was it the very first play he checked in? He dunked an alley-oop.
Yep, first 2 plays. One was from Cade,
And
one was from Ivy, back to
and the
back.
crowd was so happy. The entire crowd was
So
happy.
happy. And he had a huge finish down low as well in that game. He knocked down a three in that game. And then Gabe, you mentioned the fader. I think Bagley is definitely leading the backup race after that one. Again, did what he needed to do in our second game against OKC. But in terms of just being a backup big man, it's a simpler role, and we've talked about so much how Bagley's an excellent play finisher. That's all he has to do. Set screens, roll to the rim, and that's all you have to do. The communication, I mean, I didn't know that. That's really interesting because obviously the defense isn't there with Bagley. But if he's at least communicating, hey, there's something. I have a few other ways to. I have a segue. Can I segue off of Marvin Bagley?
Segue off of Marvin Bagley.
So many of those points in the third quarter came from a two-man game with Killian freaking Hayes, man. Killian Hayes was reading those pick and rolls so well. He had 2 turnovers over 2 games, which is really exceptional, I thought, and he played a good amount of minutes. He shot 57% over those 2 games, 5 for 8, and then 7 for 13. Looked so good defensively. Did not belong against the second half Phoenix guys, which is basically G Leaguers. Like Saban Lee has the shakiest handle in the league, I think, and I can't tell you how many times Killian picked his pocket, ended up with 5 steals that game. But we know Killian can do all that. We know he can play defense. Keeping the turnovers low, I think, is a massive thing for him. And if he has an effective two-man game with if he makes that bond with Marvin Bagley, like how many times do we see that pocket pass or an alley-oop? There's no reason that shouldn't be the bread and butter of the backup unit because Bagley's an excellent roller and Killian is an elite passer. I'm really optimistic for that two-man game for his longevity of his entire NBA career. I think that's something we really haven't been able to look at and take away from his skill set. But I think it's such a big thing for him. It was probably the most notable thing from game one for me. It's been hard to keep it in me this whole time. What do you guys think about Killian?
What do you mean we haven't been able to see that part of his skill set, like a
Because,
two-man game, getting
like,
a
I don't-
screen with the
like-
guy rolling to the hoop?
Because I just don't think we have. Like, why not? Like, I don't.
Bagley,
I'm not saying it
guys
shouldn't have been
last
there,
year.
but it was
He
not
just
used
couldn't
as
do it last
effectively. Like,
year.
Yeah, he's just not good. The reason we didn't see it is 'cause
cool.
we didn't
And I'm
do
saying
what
this
he's
year
good
it's
at.
here because
Yeah, I
he
think-
went in 5 times in a row and slipped Marvin Bagley to inch perfection for bunnies after bunnies.
I think two reasons.
And to that efficiency, I've never seen it before. It really gets me optimistic to think Monty Williams is getting something out of this kid, man.
Yeah.
Because the passing was exceptional in the pick and roll.
Two reasons. We played against the Suns, third stringers. Second reason, I think he worked a lot on that right hand over the summer.
Yeah.
It's not like he's taking right hand layups or anything exclusively, but he goes that way on pick and rolls. It's an option, right? Previously, it was you stop his left, he just picks up the dribble, passes out. This time, he takes his time more. He can go right. He snakes. He hit a few mid-range pull-ups that were nice. He got to the line of, to the rim a few times in creative ways that weren't just drive left. His passing is on point. His three ball's still not there, but we're gonna talk about this guy later. But I think he's gonna still kind of have Marcus Sasser on his tail for the third string point guard role. It's great to
I
see
wanted
now
to
in
touch on.
preseason, but
Yeah.
you gotta keep it up.
You're right. No doubt. I wanted to touch on one more Marvin Bagley thing. He made a nice backdoor bounce pass to, I think it was Jaden Ivey in the OKC game for a soft slam. So it was nice to see Marvin showcasing a little bit extra of his skill set. As for Killian, I do think that three-pointer has improved. I watched him warming up in the preseason opener against Phoenix. I know it was just warm-ups, but when I've watched Killian in warm-ups before, he normally misses a lot. This time I saw him make 3 of 5 threes. So it was nice to see him.
Whoa,
I know, I
bro,
know,
he's like a good rec player. That's
I know.
crazy.
It was amazing. Shocked me, but he got robbed on 1 3 in Phoenix that probably should have gone down, but it didn't. And then I think he's still that late shot clock like god who loves to like take shots at the end of the shot clock, which is unfortunately usually a tough 3 pointer. So I think that's bringing down his 3 point percentage at least again early in the preseason. But I do think that the shot from three has improved. He blew up a play. He blew up an action on the left wing during the OKC game to nail a triple. So like his guy went under on a DHO with I think it was Stu, and he just popped and buried it. So like you gotta have confidence to knock that shot down, which I think is a really big thing for Killian Hayes. And his defense has been pretty good. I think 5 steals is really incredible again against non NBA guys. But it was nice to see him still have that defensive mentality. Again, as mentioned, he's going right. And again, getting to the rim, I think, was something that we've always touched on. He's never getting 2 feet in the paint. This time, he drove left into contact for an and one against Phoenix, and then against OKC, he drove right, took the contact, hit a fade off glass for an and one against Mitchich. And then on top of that, he goes behind. Hezi drives left on Chet Holmgren and gets the layup off the glass. So I think we're seeing a new and improved Killian Hayes, and it's nice to see him show confidence for more than one game in a row. And we've seen him go on a run before scoring, but let's see if he can hold this one out. Because if he can, I think he is indeed a rotation block.
But I think this is like for Ivy, it's going to be easier. I think for Hayes being the backup point guard full time at Hayes, like he's not going to be a starter ever if Cade's around. So it might make it easier for him go against some simpler comp. But no, I'm not raising my hopes up. He's
Fair enough.
the
He hasn't
jump
given me
shot
much reason to in the past. So
You can't hate on that. Yeah, I'm not upset.
Yeah.
But me, on the other hand, when I just see the guy speak right now, the confidence, man, when he's going right, Gabe, I'm really glad you touched on that. I just want to bring that to light one more time. I don't think he attempted a right-handed shot over these games, but went right off the screen or on ISO several times. Whether that ended up in like a lefty little fadeaway baseline, I know he took one time, but just so glad that he's finally going that way, man. And the 3-point shot, yeah, I thought it looked all right. Too soon to judge though, to make a full judgment on the 3-point.
fair enough. Any other thoughts? I mean, Killian Hayes was praised by James Edwards, saying that he should be in the rotation in an article. So if James is speaking it into existence, there's got to be something going on there. Any other thoughts on Killian Hayes before we move on to the backups of the backup? All right. Well, Marcus Sasser looked really impressive in OKC. Again, like we said with the Sar Thompson, Sasser looked as advertised. His ability to stop on his dime, create separation on shots, and knock down those shots was what grabbed me right away when I started watching some tape on him after we picked him. And he still got it. And he doesn't shy away from the big moments either. He hit a big triple from the right wing to tie it up in OKC. So he led the comeback with his facilitating, with his leadership, with his shot making, with his just ability to do the right thing, make the right play. And as we talked about earlier, he made that pass to Sar Thompson where Thompson just like jumped, had a cup of coffee, caught it, and then threw it down. And then Stanley Omude as well has been really impressive. Coming in late, I think he's averaging 15 points and averaging, I think it was 60% from three over his first 2 preseason games. So it's really impressive to see what Amude is doing. When we put him on a 10-day, I said he's a bucket and he's living up to his name. I love it. Arkansas guy just scoring, and he got mad range too. So he's helped facilitate the comebacks in the first 2 preseason games. We'll start with Connie this time. Your thoughts on Stanley Amude and Marcus Sasser?
I think this is Marcus Sasser's reason why the Killian Hayes rotation minutes are not safe because in that OKC game, he looked to me like a very legit shooter. He had one nice like double step back into a three, real quick pull ups, just catching, moving in either direction. Really big shots down the stretch for us, moving inwards off like when someone overcommits to his 3-pointer, getting to a floater, getting to a pull up midi. I think he is a very skilled scorer. He looks a very skilled scorer. So that's why I don't think the Hayes rotation minutes are safe, because of the value of spacing and the spacing he could possibly provide in a very real way. And same thing with Amude, who has kind of a goofy. He doesn't have like a form that typically like really good shooters, high percentage shooters, they have very nice form, especially wings, right? Like the good shooters, they have that clean, simple up, good guide hand, flick forwards. His looks kind of like lazy. I don't know if that's the right term for it. It looks kind of like he's just like tossing it out there, but it is so money, and I really want to see if he is this type of shooter. I really want to see Stanley and Moody on this team, because like there's going to be 3-point like corner threes to be had, and if you're hitting those at, well, he's obviously not going to shoot the way that he shot. He's not going 8 for 10, 6 for 10. So he's not a 60% 3-point shooter, but I think there's a spot for him if he plays the way he's currently playing. At least
Gabe Valley.
Mazelon or Roden, he can have those.
Oh,
he can have
yeah,
those.
I think they've definitely made an impact over those two. Those who have really seen the floor to this point. Valley or Gabe, any thoughts on Sasser or Stanley Umude?
Yeah, we still have our 15th roster spot open, I think, and then looking like that's gonna go to Amude. Like you said, kind of his shot just looks wet. I love his like kind of the catapult he has, but it's really like smooth and fluid. He does not need to put a lot of like throw into that. He has pretty good size too. I don't see why he can't be a kind of Joe Harris type of player in the league. Who we also haven't really touched on, but Joe Harris has played well as well. He hit his threes there when they're open. Him and Umude are like the two players where if they shoot, I expect it to like swish every single time. It's nice to have depth of players who at the very least can space the floor and can shoot. We haven't had that in as long as I've been watching the Pistons pretty much. So yeah, it's a really great thing to have. Sasser, I still think he's gonna spend most of his time in the G League. In person, he looks really small, like really small. Even in shoes, I can't see him being 6 feet tall. But and then first game he wasn't aggressive really. Second game, like you said, he can score a lot of ways. He can shoot. His passing is, so, but it's not really why he's on the court. But yeah, Killian needs to watch out, because if Sasser continues to be aggressive and efficient, then there's no reason for him not to have that backup point guard spot behind Ivy.
Yeah, and Valley, before you go, I wanted to touch on just one thing from Sasser. Did you guys see that floater he just tossed up towards the sky, touched the stars, and dropped straight through? That was beautiful. It was pretty. Valley, go ahead on Stanley Umude or Marcus Sasser.
I was so surprised with Stanley Moody. I didn't know he had that in him. I'm not gonna lie, I didn't know he could shoot like that, man. That comeback was insane, man. He looked like Klay Thompson out there on the catch and shoot. Yeah, very optimistic for the way Umude played. And more so just looking back at the history of Monty Williams' teams. The role of the wings on his teams is really simple, honestly. When you look at like the Crowders, the Cam Johnsons, it's play defense and be ready to knock down threes. So like, why can't Amude do exactly that? I know it's in the notes, but if I'm Isaiah Livers, I'm rushing to get back right now, because I'm concerned how well Stanley Amude is playing.
Relative same height, defensive ability, and
Exactly.
Amude has proved he can knock
Livers
down more
is
than one
bigger.
shot.
He's bigger,
Livers.
way
Is
bigger,
he?
stronger.
Stronger for sure.
He fills a different positional role, I feel. Like
They're both 3
That's fair.
forwards.
Mude's not Mude's 6'6". Like Mude's not a 4.
Is he really 6'6"?
That's fair.
Yeah, he's 6'6".
Yeah.
It's insane. But looking at Marcus Sasser, Yeah, the physicality, Gabe, was definitely something you saw against Phoenix. Glad he put together a solid game against Oklahoma City, but stance hasn't really changed on him. He's probably going to be a guy that's in the G League. But the thing is, dude, if Saban Lee tore up the G League, Marcus Sasser is going to tear up the G League. And it's just going to be fans coming at Killian's head the whole time saying, hey, Marcus Sasser's putting up 40 in the G League. Make him the backup point guard. So I'm just ready for that. Just calling it. But yeah, nothing to move him up a rotation level or anything soon, but very optimistic for him again as well.
In college, he was a 48% three-point shooter, Amude.
48.
Oh no, that's
Yeah.
his field goal. He was a 38% three-point shooter.
Okay, there you go. I was gonna say, all right. Another Arkansas guy that can shoot it, Isaiah Joe. So maybe Stanley Amude can kind of carve out a path for himself that way. Any other thoughts on Sasser, Amude, or Livers losing his job before we move into one of our final topics here today?
Well, real quick on the personal life blurb in Umude's Wikipedia, it says Umude is a fan of the Oklahoma City Thunder. I don't know why that's there or when he revealed that, but kind of strange.
Well, he showed out against them. That's all I can tell you. Another sniper on the Pistons roster, Joe Harris. In my opinion, I feel like Joe Harris needs to have some rotation minutes. He's just so steady. I think the first two games he missed his first shot, and then just got going after that. We ran an out of bounds play for him coming off of a pin off curl, and then he just knocked down the shot with ease, which I think is something we didn't have a guy who could make that shot in the past. We run that play in the past, like all NBA teams do, but Harris actually makes them. I think Joe Harris needs to be in this rotation just for scoring stability. Let's start with Gabe. Your thoughts on Joe Harris the first couple games, and if you think he deserves rotation minutes.
Yeah, I mentioned at the start where if Ivy's not playing, I could see Joe Harris start a few games. He is absolutely elite at shooting, probably the best in the league, catch and shoot three-point shooter. Um, that's really it. He's a smart player. He's played on good teams. He has playoff experience. At the very least, he's a 15-minute per game player for me, who can spot start whenever. He's not gonna, based on like the advanced stats, he's not as bad as a defender as like Bogey or something. And if he's passable, then Joe Harris is as well. That's really it. He's pretty one-dimensional, but man, that's a very good one dimension.
Connie, Valley, any thoughts on Joe Harris?
Yeah, he doesn't seem like he's trying that hard. Which he's an NBA vet in preseason, so understandable. He looks good shooting threes. He's gonna see minutes. Like there's no way he doesn't see minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Valley?
you hit on it right there. I mean, I've told you, Amit, that like he might play 5 minutes one night, he might play 20 the next. Either way, his threat of making 3-pointers is too much for him to not see the court for at least a short amount of time in any season game.
Right on. Any thoughts on the first two preseason games that we did not touch on yet?
Yeah. Both of these games were close, and we even won one of them. When the other team played their guys, the Pistons were down big. Like both of our comebacks were made in sort of the second half when both teams are sort of playing their second units, their backup units. I don't think our starting units looked really solid in either of these, like coming out of the gate, and that's I think something to be a little concerned about. We actually played against other starting units. Our guys looked outmatched a little bit. And the other thing I'm very much concerned about is Cade Cunningham sitting a game and now practice with quad tendonitis after playing a single game. That's just
If you take anything from James Edwards, he said that he's hearing that it's just regular training camp soreness, and they're just being cautious. If it was a regular season game, he would have played. So, if take that from that what you will.
It's just all very fragile still. Like we've all been very positive this summer. Goes like that. It might not be.
Yeah. Based off that, Cody, has your predicted win totals changed? Because I know mine has.
I think I might go. I think I might go down a tad.
Yeah.
Yeah, might be at like 30 right now. Touch.
In former Pistons news, Pistons talk to Sweden this. Have you guys seen what Eugene Omoruyi is doing so far?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
I saw him
almost
go
texted you
crazy the
guys.
first game.
So
Who are you playing for?
Wizards.
the Wizards. He's got a plus 33 plus or minus. He's 8 for 13 from the field, 5 steals, 6 rebounds, 22 points, and 24 minutes this far in the preseason.
I'm a little upset he's not on our roster. That's what I was thinking when I was looking through his box scores, man. I'm not gonna lie.
I'm not tripping about that one.
um, but yeah, any other thoughts on the preseason before we start taking a little bit of a preview for our next 2 games? So 2 more games to go this preseason, October 19th and October 20th. One against OKC, this time actually in OKC in Tulsa, and then we head down to the Lone Star State of Dallas, Texas, to take on Luka if he actually plays, and the Mavericks. I'm seeing. I don't know. This team's kind of been shocking me with their late comebacks, but I'm still going to say 0-2 in the preseason. Before we're saving the wins for the regular season. That's how I'm just going to look at it.
We're gonna beat the Mavs. They lost to a European team.
Fair
I
enough.
mean,
All right.
They had 4 ex NBA players on their roster. I'm pretty sure, Madrid.
yeah.
We're gonna
Let me go make sure.
Yeah.
I think there's one ex Piston legend on there. I would love for you guys to guess if I can pull it up.
1-1.
Yeah, same.
Preseason is a crapshoot, and
You never know.
you never
Yeah,
know.
fair enough. Okay, I'll change it. 1-1. You're right. It's a crap sheet. And
Who's
if Cade
gonna?
comes back, then he'll go off in the first half of one of those games.
Who do you think will lead us in? Who's gonna be the top scorer out of those 2 games? I could see a Jaden Ivey 30 piece.
Yeah, I think Jaden Ivey.
Hey,
I can't think of anyone else, so I'll go with that.
there's one former Piston who was on Real Madrid. Can you name him? And you have to get deep in your bag because hint, I don't think he played a game for us. Troy Weaver acquisition, one of his earlier moves.
Also, Koprivica.
Tyler Williams?
No, the guy we traded
Harris
Bruce
Smith?
Brown for, right? Musa?
Musa.
Musa?
Musa.
Yeah, Zanon
Yeah.
Musa contributed with 8 points. Yabusele on that team, Facundo Campazzo on that team, and Mario Hezonja and Vincent Poirier on that team.
Wow, that's quite the roster.
And they beat the Mavs.
Yeah, you know what? If we can't beat the Mavs after that, Valley, your 50-win season's kind of going down the drain on that one. Yeah.
That's on a second night of a back-to-back in preseason. I'm assuming that's going to be the 3rd and 4th stringers. Even my
Yeah.
the game will be unlikely.
Do we know why Bogey's not playing?
Calf strain.
Is he even here?
Yeah, calf strain.
Okay.
Yeah, he's out with calf strain. I haven't seen anything on him. But hopefully with a week between 2 preseason games, him and Cade come back and we actually get a peek at what our actual starting lineup might be on Thursday the 19th. But any other thoughts on that or tomorrow's open practice before we get on out of here?
Are you guys going?
Yes, sir.
I'm not.
Do you want to go? We have 3 tickets.
I'm good.
Wow. Thought we had a Pistons fan over there.
I thought so too. He left before the game ends, and now he won't come to open practice.
Whose signature are you gonna or picture with? Who are you trying to go after?
Anyone that's willing to.
No, dude, like as I remember it, there's like lines. You got to pick your lines. Take a little while.
Take a guess where Amit and I will be.
We're gonna get Killian to have the new intro for the pod. Killian's got the new intro for the pod.
Get him on the pod.
You know what? We're gonna try. We're gonna try everything. We're gonna be asking. We're gonna
better have the Buffs on shirt.
Yep.
I'm taking mine. I told Valley we got a rep. And then I put it out on Twitter. We only got one response on if any fans are going to be there. So we'll see if anyone recognizes the logo on the shirt. But all right. Well, thank you guys so much for listening to this episode of the Buff Sound Podcast. We had fun talking to you guys about it. It's fun to have Pistons basketball back, and it's fun to feel what a win feels like again. So we'll be at open practice tomorrow. You guys aren't going to hear this, so it doesn't matter. And then we got 2 games next week on Thursday and Friday before opening night is approaching quickly. We are only 11 days out, ladies and gentlemen. So we're almost there. But until then, throw the Buffs on Detroit because the future is bright.